Well, it's a great pleasure to speak with this tapestry behind me, representing a new area of collecting that has developed under Philippe's tenure as director of the Metropolitan Museum. It's slightly surprising, really, that tapestries have been such a neglected field in recent times. There was extraordinary interest in the medium in New York in the late 19th and early 20th century, when the great industrial barons of the time were building their enormous mansions, the neo-Renaissance, neo-medieval, neo-Baroque palaces that were such a part of the golden age of collecting in the history of New York, and bringing vast quantities of European fine and decorative arts across the Atlantic to decorate these interiors. And dealers like Duveen, Seligman played a key role in educating American collectors in the significance of European textiles and tapestries, bringing over entire sets and reconstructing interiors, which they then used to beguile the Huntingdons, the Morgans, and other such grand collectors. And tapestries really were a ubiquitous presence in the great homes of the early 20th century. William Randolph Hearst is said to have purchased the building because he was so frustrated that the owners of the building wouldn't allow him to alter the walls to take his tapestries. So he just bought the building and knocked through a 3-story hallway. I suppose the grand epitome of that style was the Blumenthal mansion, in which the centerpiece was the 3-story courtyard from the Spanish palace, which is now downstairs outside the Watson Library, the so-called Blumenthal patio. Again, this was a setting for grand Renaissance tapestries, which had been brought over. But such grand interiors and grand tapestries were the taste for that kind of decorating was severely impacted by the Wall Street crash. And although up until that point, the American museums had made few inroads in terms of acquiring tapestry collections, really because of the cost. After the Wall Street crash and the resulting shift in practice, as people shifted from these enormous apartments to smaller apartments, there was a huge letting go of the larger tapestries and textiles into the marketplace or as gifts to museums. And the Metropolitan, along with the Art Institute in Chicago, the Philadelphia, the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, really the tapestry collections that survive in these institutions today were largely formed during the 1930s, the 1940s, and the 1950s as a result of gifts from the collections which were then being dispersed. So we numerically, the Metropolitan and other museums like us, are rich in tapestries which we acquired in that fashion. The problem is that many of these tapestries had been brought over as furnishings by the great collectors, and they had been used in a way which was totally alien to their historic display. Traditionally, great tapestries had been hung for special occasions and then put away in storage to preserve their colour and their materials. But with permanent display in a New York climate, vast numbers of the tapestries which were brought over at the turn of the century faded and deteriorated very rapidly. And so while we have many historically interesting pieces, I think it's no secret to anybody as you walk through our galleries that many of the tapestries are extremely faded. And so in recent years, I've been working to both fill in gaps, but also to find pieces, significant pieces that are in good condition and colour. And this piece behind me, which we acquired in 1998 with funds from Mrs. Annenberg, is really, for me, one of the most outstanding acquisitions that I've been able to make while here as a curator. It dates from about 1500, and it derives from a six-piece series depicting the Triumphs of Petrarch, the cycle that was so popular in late medieval and Renaissance art, depicting the cycle of life, but providing an opportunity for a rich meditation on the passage of life, and the richness and the difficulties of life. This scene is embodies the triumph of fame, in which we see a figure of fame holding a crystal globe, surrounded by writers. Traditionally, in these cycles, fame is shown surrounded by the famous men and women of history. But in this case, it's the writers who recorded the famous men and women. It typifies the design style of tapestries created in Brussels around 1500. It's in beautiful colour and condition, and corresponds very closely, in fact, exactly, with a tapestry listed in the inventory of Isabel the Catholic, the Spanish queen. And I think this ownership, this possible ownership, certainly she had the first design of this tapestry of which we know, even if it wasn't this piece, and that this piece may well be the piece from her collection. I think that ownership gives us a clue as to why the subject matter has been designed in this unusual departure from the norm, because the tapestries in Isabel's collection were predominantly Christian in subject matter. And as you'll see here in this scene, the globe that fame holds is surmounted by a cross, and the classical writers are shown around fame who, during the Middle Ages, whose works were interpreted as predicting the coming of Christ. So here we have a humanist poem given an additionally Christian spin, in all likelihood in response to the taste of the patron for whom the series was conceived. As I said, it's a truly remarkable piece because the coloration is so strong, and it really, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd put this sort of 8 out of 10. It's close to the original intensity of the colors. So it was a great acquisition, and I think a fitting nod to Philippe at the entrance of this exhibition in its celebration of the achievements of the great. And of course, to me, part of an exhibition which really provides a masterclass in what I must now aim to lead the museum into in the coming years. So thank you.